Okay everyone, I've got a test for all of you to try out on your camera, or your cameras, regarding sensors, settings and image performance that you get from it. On the DP Review website, they're doing this interesting exposure latitude test on all their cameras now, or all the new cameras that come along, and it's a very, very interesting idea. The only downside I'd say is that they're doing it in a total studio lab environment. But what it's effectively saying is that they're testing out to see, is it better in your camera to just keep the ISO nice and low, and then just in post-production increase the exposure in Adobe Lightroom, wherever it is, to whatever the exposure you need it to be? Or is it better in camera to increase the ISO to get the correct exposure in the first place? And what they're saying is that the Nikon D750, which has the same, roughly the same sensor as the D600, D610, D750, all the 24 megapixel full frame sensor, they're saying this is a fantastic sensor for just, totally underexpose the image, get all the detail and the highlights, and then in post increase all the exposure afterwards. And what they're calling this is iso-invariance. So it means that it doesn't matter what setting you have it on, just shoot low. And they've got all these examples here where they're showing, here is the effect of using the D750 at ISO 6400, comparing it to ISO 100, but then pushed the image in post-production, pushed by 6 stops, which is insane, it's huge. So I was going to test that on cameras, which I have got here. The first one I want to show you, the bad example, is my Canon 5D Mark II. So here's the image that I've taken today. I'll put it into develop mode, and let's just go back to how it was from the start. Okay, so the first image was shot at the Canon's base ISO is ISO 200. I thought it set it at that, but it's actually saying ISO 250. So whoops, sorry, mistake there. The second image I took, same settings, so same shutter speed, same aperture, but ISO 3200. So equivalent of a 4-stop increase in exposure. So the point here is not show, hey look, it's so much brighter, yeah, what's the point? But let's say we're wanting to get the dynamic range of the sunny area here, but also get the details in the shadowed area, shadowy areas of this building here. So we go to the first image. It looks like, so we can see all the bricks here, bricks here, bricks here, and then it's just totally lost. In this one we can see everything from the types of things. So the question is, if you go to this one and we increase this by, well, it'd just be under 4 stops, so it'd be, let's call it 3.5. So bring this all the way up to, in fact, let's just stop there. There's 3.1 stops increase, and as you can see, the exposure is roughly the same now. We're getting the details, but holy moly, look at the destruction of the image. All this color noise, all this grain. In terms of detail, yeah, we've still got a little bit of detail, although this is a non-detaily... Detaily? Did I just say that? Detailed image. But if we then go to shooting at ISO 3200, clearly there's a massive benefit with, for example, the Canon 5D Mark II, is shooting at the higher ISOs for the details in the shadows. However, is there something which we've lost? Like, for example, here, look at the sky, totally blown out. If on Lightroom we bring highlights down, oh, even at ISO 3200, we're getting some details here. If we go to the one which was at ISO 250 and is being pushed to roughly the same exposure, maybe about there. Let's see, does that look about the same? Around about. I bring the highlights down, right down, minus 100. Oh, we're getting a lot more detail. Are we getting more detail? Yes. So for example, if you look around the trees here, getting good detail of the trees and the clouds down here in the bigger or the brighter image, pretty blown out. Yeah, so that's a better shot of the sky. Okay, but so next thing is Adobe Lightroom obviously has noise reduction images software. So let's say we bring luminance and, most importantly, color. Let's bring color up to like 80 and so forth. And so what happens there is you lose a lot of the detail Oh, but it's a tough one. It's a tough one. So if we go from there, oh, but that is nicer. So we're definitely at the lower ISO getting more dynamic range, certainly in the brights, but not really getting a huge amount of extra details in the shadowed areas. And once you've added on the noise reduction, it's just mush. We cannot see the curtains of that building. Meanwhile, if we go to the higher ISO here, we can see all the details. So what that tells me is it's probably better with the Canon 5D Mark II to choose a higher ISO if the highlights aren't super duper important. So more important to expose a little bit to the right, which means to slightly overexpose, than it is to underexpose and then try and push it afterwards. So that was what I consider to be a bad camera. On DP review, they're saying that the D750 is a fantastic camera and saying it suggests it makes no difference whether you achieve the correct brightness by amplifying the signal at the point of capture or by pushing it digitally digitally later. At which point you could say this camera is ISO-invariant. So I had the the Nikon D750, but I'm going to show you an example that I've got with the D600, which is the same sensor effectively. So here is an example which is full on a silhouette image. It's the Nikon D600 ISO 100. No, so how would you expose for this image? It's completely impossible. You've got the sun coming straight towards you. And you've got the person's just totally in their shadow. Could bring up some shadows. Yeah, I've got some stuff there. But let's see if we increase the exposure digitally afterwards by 4 stops. That's pretty scary. Many photographers that you know probably like, oh, that's pretty high. And here, by 4 stops, this is astonishing. I can now make out the features of this guy's face. I can see he's got a thing in his pocket. I can tell you how many ruffles are in his bow tie. If we just see what that was before and after, that's pretty, I don't think this is no noise reduction. Let's see if we bring some noise reduction in. Like, it looks smooth and detailed, brilliant. And if we bring highlights down, we're now getting to see the thing that's in the lady's hair as well. And I think with this one we want to bring the vibrance up to get the grass all nice and green. So I can see all the different bits of grass from which was in the past completely black to here lovely, colourful. So it's just like like the Nikon D600, 610, D750, the sensor in that is astonishing. And I really, really would hope that with the recent updates of the D500 and the D5, that if Nikon could put the D750 sensor into the Nikon D500 style body, that would be a very, very happy DOM going on there, because there's no question about it. The sensor here is fantastic. Pushing this by 4 stops digitally afterwards, and you're getting that much information, is just fantastic. Let's see if I can see another example. Here's another one, a nighttime shot. What was it? This is a full 30-second exposure, trying to show off the stars in the sky and the building here. So, again, with this sensor, this is a long exposure, so potentially a completely different example here. Let's say we increase the exposure by 3 stops. Bring up 3 stops. That's a lot. So that a lot of the house is blown out, but wow, we're getting detail up here, but not really seeing much extra noise increase, which is astonishing. And let's see, we bring the highlights down. Brilliant, we're getting all this detail. What's happened now is that the saturation has gone mental, so I might just bring the orange and the yellow down a little bit. And clarity up just a little bit there. Maybe vibrance down. I think the vibrance may be a bit too low there. But that, let's see if we go for before and after. Look at that. Look at that. So like from seeing so much detail, it looks like it needs a little bit of chromatic. Oh, that's with no noise reduction as well. Color, remove chromatic aberrations. That should be, yeah, and that's them gone. Yeah. So even if you think, damn, this image is underexposed, never delete your images on the back of your camera, especially if you're using modern sensors or modern cameras just now. Brilliant. And here, I just want to show you another example. An example of, wow, you can save an image. So here I was shooting handheld with the 10.5mm fisheye, so using the cropped part sensor because it's a DX lens. And the slowest I was happy to go for was a quarter of a second, or yeah, 1/4 of a second, f2.8 ISO 100, and thinking, nothing there. Managed to get rid of most of the blur, but let's just see. Let's see if we just increase the exposure up 3, maybe a little bit shadows. Look at that. We can see the details of this guy's, like the creases in his trousers and everything, right there. Like that's impressive. And if we bring the highlights down, still got all the details of his shirt and everything going on there. So again, important bit here is, yeah, just do not delete the images off your camera. So from before to after, that's what it's like. Brilliant. Yeah. One more. I just want to keep on showing this off. So here again, not totally at base ISO. This is at ISO 220, and it's totally underexposed, but it's also high contrast. So in other words, outside blazing sunshine, inside barely any lights at all. If you look at the histogram, it is disaster. It's everything in the shadows and blown out highlights. So yeah, we're not getting anything going on there. If we were wanting to, let's say, have the internal area exposed correctly, we're going to have to increase this by about 2.5 to 3 stops. So let's bring it up to 2.5. Yeah, so brilliant. I'm now able to see the way that this paint was scratched or like painted on to the wall. That is fantastic. But look at the outside, totally blown. Let's see how much detail. Look at that. Look at how much detail is saved by using the lower ISO and exposing in post, or increasing the exposure in post to get that level of detail. A little bit of clarity up, a little bit of such vibrance down. Wow, let's see that before and after again. That is astonishing. That's astonishing. That's so amazing that you can get that. Fully recommend anybody. D600, D610, D750, the sensor in that, definitely one of the best. Cheers. Bye bye.